Good morning. Happy Tuesday with Tamika. I am so excited to talk to you this morning. This morning, I am going to be completely transparent. I am going to tell you a little bit about myself. For those of you that don't know, many of you already know me and know a lot of my story, but this morning I wanted to just give you a snippet. So, I am a mother of three wonderful children, Elijah, Moses, and Amaya. I am a supervisor at a mental health facility. I am a published author, from Crutches to Stairs, hashtag lesson learn. I am a motivational speaker, transformational speaker. I am a life coach. I service many women, helping them get from one place to another. I am a mentor to hundreds of young girls. I have serviced hundreds, maybe even thousands of young girls in drug and alcohol facilities, teaching them anger management skills, coping skills, life skills. It is an honor, all the work that I've been able to do. So to sum it up, I'm pretty much a servant. I love, love, love to serve others. That is truly my life's calling. And I'm proud. I'm proud of the woman that I've become. I'm proud of the things that I've done. But it's been a journey. It's been a journey to get here. Along with all those accomplishments, I'm also the daughter of teenage parents. I'm also the daughter of an addict. I'm also the young girl that witnessed my mother do drugs right in front of me. I'm also the young girl that has experienced so many traumas in her life that some of them are very hard to talk about, sexual abuse, physical abuse. I have images burned in my memory of the court date when, as a young child, I used to think my dad took me away from my mother. Now, as an adult, I'm able to see those views differently. But in the 80s, the justice system was different than it is now. And I remember being in the courtroom, listening to testimony about my family, and it was heart-wrenching to come to the realization of the dysfunction that I was living in, because it was my normal. It was my normal to see people get shot. It was my normal to hear that, the neighborhood homeboy was murdered or killed, at a very young age. I remember my uncle being murdered when he was 15, 16 years old. I remember seeing people, at parties. It wasn't nothing to see people get in a fight. That was my normal. That's what I saw. That's what I knew. I could crit walk with the best of them. I could throw up the sevens because we were from Centown in Pomona, California. So I am the girl that comes from that dysfunction. I am also the girl when my dad, I was told a story that my dad didn't want me, that my dad, this was the memory this was a story that was constantly told to me, that my dad told people that I was his sister, that I wasn't his daughter, and that he never truly wanted me. So I was the young girl that believed that I was unwantable. I don't think that's a word, but I was a young girl that believed that nobody ever wanted me, that my dad didn't want me, my mom couldn't get straight long enough to take care of me and my brothers and sisters, so she never wanted me. So no matter how cute I was, how smart I was, how fast I could run, nobody truly wanted me. So at the age of 7 or 8, when the court proceedings began and my dad took custody of me, I was rocked out of my normal. My normal was changed, and I went to go live with my dad, and he had a wife already, and I had two brothers and sisters, and so my normal had changed. And I'm also the young girl that when I went to go live with my dad, I didn't know how to read or write, barely knew how to write my name, and this was at 8 years old. So I struggled in school. School was tough, but what I did have is I knew how to manipulate, and I knew how to get people to do what I wanted, because growing up in the environment that I had previously been raised in, that was survival. That's what you had to do. So I struggled in school. I had so many insecurities because of the molestation, because of the abuse. And then my dad, in his out, for lack of better words, in his ignorance of how to really raise a young girl that came from that environment, he became pretty abusive because he didn't want me. He wanted the best for me, and he didn't know another way to do it. And a lot of parents do that to their kids. And since me and my dad have reconciled, and of course, you know, we have a very beautiful, loving relationship, but as a child, you feel like, why? You know, why is this happening to me? Why? You know, why? Like, what the heck did I do wrong? Like, you know, I didn't ask to be born into this situation. So fast forward to middle school and high school, I became boy crazy, but it was a secret because I grew up in a very strict religious home, and I wasn't allowed to date until I was 17 years old. I wasn't, you know, wasn't allowed to wear makeup, nail polish, nothing, you know, and but I was boy crazy secretly, and I just wanted love. I wanted love so bad because I never felt it, you know. Your brain, during brain development, the first 7 years are so crucial, and my first 7 years were so jacked up. So I didn't understand intimacy. I didn't understand love. What I knew is that I was pretty. What I knew is that people liked me. So I ran to boys, and I got into relationships with boys that just used me for my looks, used me for who I was, you know, to have me on their arm. And I became extremely, extremely depressed. When I was 17 years old, I had my first abortion. This is stuff that I've never talked about, you guys. I had my very first abortion by a young man that his father was a pastor in the church. So it would have been super taboo. It was a taboo for us to be having sex, yet alone me getting pregnant. So I snuck, I had my first abortion, and I went to work that same day like nothing ever happened. And that was the beginning of when I knew I was dying inside, and my depression was so deep and so real. But I went on with life, you know, and once that happened, it pretty much ruined our relationship, and I ended up breaking up with him. And fairly quickly after that, when I turned 18, I met my father's husband, and 2 months after meeting him, I moved in. We lived in terrible conditions, but we made it work because, you know, in our minds we were in love. But the truth of the matter is, he was broken, I was broken. So two broken people do not make each other whole. You know, the myths are, you know, you can heal one another, you can love each other through the pain. And I know that there's stories of that being true, but for us, that wasn't the case. 6 months after we met, I was pregnant with our first son. And the relationship was terrible because we were broken, the both of us. And I was physically abusive. I constantly picked fights because that's what I knew. Because rewinding a little bit, that's what I was good at. I knew how to fight. I knew how to run my mouth. In high school, I was everybody said, don't mess with Tamika because she'll, you know, fight you, you know, she'll beat you up. So that's what I was comfortable with because of the abuse that was happening to me that nobody really, you know, knew about, because those are things that you don't talk about. So he often told me that he would never truly love me because I wasn't his family. He grew up believing his family were his brothers and sisters, and that's all that his heart had for love and his children. So he is a wonderful father to our kids, but he was not a good husband to me. So 12 years after our marriage, we divorced. And quickly after that, I got into another relationship. And I am a strong believer of we attract who we are. So I attract another broken man because I was still broken. And in that quick marriage that lasted about 2 years, I'm sorry. There's more to the story. In my first marriage, I had my second abortion. And in the midst of that, I had, those of you that know me or know my children, I had terrible labors and premature babies that were extremely sick that the doctor said wouldn't live, you know, through the night. And I always held this guilt and this shame associated with my baby's birth. I thought it was associated with the abortions that I had. So I walked around with this shame, this cloud, this guilt, this dark cloud over me because of my abortions and my sins. You know, it was always talked about how abortion was a sin, and so anyways, after my first divorce, I quickly married my second husband because I was in the church, and that's what you do. If you're going to be with somebody, you need to get married to them. And that was a terrible, terrible marriage. I just thank God that my kids are not affected by it, because the emotional, the physical abuse was terrible. There were many nights that I was scared for my life because he was very erratic. He saw things, heard things that were not reality. And it was terrible. It was a horrible, horrible marriage, but yet he was a minister in the church. So Sundays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, we went to church and we smiled and we served and we put on this persona that everything was perfect. But in reality, I was walking on eggshells in my own home. I was living in fear. I was in fear of how it was going to affect my children. So 2 years after that marriage, we divorced, and that marriage has successfully completed itself, just as my first marriage. And all of that and much, much more is what makes up me, which makes up the woman that you see before you today, which makes up Tamika Michelle, which makes up the woman that is able to inspire from her heart, which makes up the woman that is able to tell a young girl, I understand, which makes up a woman that's able to say, yes, you can make it. You know why I know you can make it? Because I made it. These are the things that we are going to be talking about on Talk Back Thursday. I have not been able to get the full story out. That was a snippet of some of the things that I have been through in my life. And there's so much more that is going to come. If you join me and my good friend Christina Faith on Talk Back Thursday, this Thursday coming up, we will be discussing so many of these topics that women go through that we're not truly allowed to talk about. I'm going to leave the number for you to call in. It is a free call for you to call in. You'll be able to ask questions. If you leave us a message, email at talkbackthursday@gmail.com. We can answer your questions. We will be able to be properly prepared to just bless you and minister to you, because as women, as people, sometimes we're unable to truly tell the whole story. But let me tell you, since I've been able to tell my story, and even in this moment right now, I feel so much relief. I feel so much weight lifted off my shoulders, and I want that same for you. I didn't expect this video to be this long, so I'm going to end it with just once again inviting you to Talk Back Thursdays. Please join us. Follow our Facebook page, follow our Instagram page, and remember to leave your emails at talkbackthursday@gmail.com. Love you. Have a beautiful day. This has been Tuesdays with Tamika. God bless.